Welcome back to the Creative Juggle Joy podcast. I'm Canadian artist and educator Delores Nascrit, as you know, and today I'm here with a very special guest, my friend and collaborator, Vanessa from Art Business with Ness. You may know her from the Profitable Artist Summit that we co-hosted earlier this year, or from her incredible tips on licensing and building a career as an illustrator through her YouTube channel, which is massive. She has tons of information there. If you're joining my 5 cards in 5 days challenge, you'll get to hear from her even more because she's going to be the guest speaker on day 4, which is September 25th at 2 o'clock Central Time. And then she's going to tell us all about art licensing. Today, we've decided we're going to blend our worlds right here on the podcast to talk about designing cards that actually sell. So I'm going to have a bunch of questions for you, my dear. Yes, let's start with why cards are such a great entry point. For me,
Yes.
yeah, for me totally was just that I found it easy. It was immediate. I could just design a single card, I could just upload it, and then I could see sales almost right away. But you've also seen cards as a path into bigger licensing opportunities. So I'm super interested in that. Why do you think greeting cards are often the first step for artists?
Yes. Well, hi, Dolores. Thank you so much for having me. So, absolutely, I completely agree that greeting cards are such a great place to start. Most illustrators, we come to this from the illustration side. A single illustration is much easier to make technically than a repeating pattern. With a repeating pattern, we have to figure out some stuff. There's differences in some softwares. There's pattern preview and there's templates and
Yeah.
there's pattern checkers online and some methods you have to do some math to figure it out. So it's not that hard once you figure it out, but it is an extra step. Whereas a greeting card, you can just get started right away. It's also a product that we are all very familiar with. It's a simple product with a simple surface. And we have tons of examples. We can just go to the drugstore and take a bunch of photos. I do that all the time. I take photos of all my favorite ones because it inspires me so much. So it's very accessible. But as you said, it can be a springboard to some bigger things. I often start my collections with greeting cards as the focal point, and then I add some patterns that match and go well with, and then it creates a very well-rounded collection that is very flexible and can work for many different markets.
Yeah, so you have a little bit more experience with this than I do. And I'd like to ask you, when you're talking with retailers or studios, what do you think makes a card line stand out to them? Like what are they looking for specifically?
Right. So a retailer or an art director that is contacting you on behalf of a retailer, they always have a very specific mandate. They're shopping for a specific product, for a specific product line. Maybe they're needing something for their Christmas card line and they need exactly this. They have specific themes and topics that they're looking for, or color palettes, or very specific things. And so it's very important to show them relevant things to what they're looking at. At first, you can just ask them what they're looking for, pick some stuff out of their portfolio. If you don't have anything, you can create something. I'll get right back to you with some samples and you create something. That's what I used to do all the time at first, or offer to create it for them custom. But when we don't know yet what they're going to be shopping for at what time, then we can be really safe by going for themes that always sell. So evergreen themes, classics like, Christmas florals
Right.
and Santa, that's always going to do well. Or birthday cakes, things like that. Think about designs or themes that would have mass market appeal because retailers want to sell a card that many, 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 many people are going to enjoy. It's a little bit different when you upload to sites like Cardile because some people they like to go there when they haven't found what they were looking for at the drugstore. So
Hmm.
yeah, but retailers, American Greetings and these places that sell for drugstores, they're really looking for the mass market appeal. So very traditional things like candles, birthday cakes, those are the things that they are really looking for.
That's great. It's good information for students because I do get that question a lot. And then I also hear from students in the card challenge, a lot of the students that I also have in my membership is how they should balance their own style with what they see that's trending. Like I do exactly what you do. I'll go right into the stores and I'm like, oh, that's pretty. And, like certain colors seem to be standing out, or, there'll be a period of time where everything is really white and just really fine little line drawings on it. It's hard to kind of know. Hard to put sort of a finger on it. They don't know exactly what to do. They don't want to copy what they're seeing because they have their own style, but they do want their cards to sell. So how do you guide, you know, students into finding that balance?
This is very difficult to do. I struggle with this too. I'm sure you do as well. It's not ever something that we completely figure it out, although we do get better. Some collections we miss.
Yeah,
It happens all the time. So if you're listening to this and you're struggling with this, it's normal that you're struggling with this. It's difficult.
yeah,
So something that's really important is yes, do a trend, put your own spin on it. It's also not necessary to reinvent the wheel. Sometimes we try to go too far in making it unique. I was guilty of that in the beginning. I remember I created an Easter collection that was really dark. It's like a dark green, very like woodsy, and it didn't sell at all because for Easter we're looking for light pastels and happy hopping bunnies, you know? But I was trying to be so edgy and different. Sometimes you want to be so different that you just completely miss the mark for what people want.
right.
So it's not necessary to reinvent the wheel. Like birthday cakes, you just do one in your style with fun decorations. You can mix trends. That's something that I love to do. I look at what things are trendy. Oh, bows are trendy. I'm gonna put some bows on the cake, and I don't know, capybaras are trendy. I'm gonna put a little capybara on it. Like whatever, just have fun and just decorate it in a different way. But it doesn't mean that you have to create this like really dark
Oh.
gothic horror birthday cake for it to be different. It doesn't have to be that unique. It's something that I noticed that is very important is colors. There are
Yeah.
specific colors that sell for specific themes. So if you want to create a Christmas collection and to be different, you decide to go with orange and purple. That's not going to feel like Christmas to people, so they're not going to buy it. And for Easter, it's multicolor pastels. For Halloween, we know it's like these like orange, black, purple, these kinds of colors. Birthday, it's very bright multicolor, red, yellow, green, blue, these kinds of colors. So if you stay within that color palette, it still gives you so much opportunity to do things a little bit in your way.
Yeah.
And I notice in my agency that when we get submission calls, the call is the same for everyone. It could be like a feminine birthday cake, and everyone does a cake that looks completely different still. There's still so many possibilities.
Right, right. And then there's all the evergreen occasions, like obviously birthdays, thank you cards, sympathy cards. Those are all pretty big, but are there seasonal or special occasions that you personally see consistently doing really well, like something we should be really focusing on? What do you
hmm
think?
Yeah, this is something that I really didn't know about before I joined my agency. I just kind of did kind of all the themes that I could think of just so I had variety in my portfolio. Now that I'm with my agency, I see a lot of requests that come back over and over again, and my agency calls it our core themes. And these are the themes that they tell us do as much as you want. We're selling them as fast as you can draw them, just you can never do enough. And these are new baby, wedding, Mother's Day, Christmas, and everyday florals. So other
Right.
occasions like Halloween, for example, they sell once in a while, but it's not as big of a category, or St. Patrick's or things like that. They sell every once in a while, but they're not the biggest sellers.
Right. I guess, it's finding the way to do that in your style that makes it really great exercise for everyone. If you can, like you said, you and 10 other people from the same agency are doing the same thing, it's finding the way that it looks good for your style. So I know you do lots of watercolor. Another artist might be doing gouache or might be doing inking or whatever. So I can see where you could still try to get into those evergreen sort of themes and yet still be able to do it quite uniquely yours, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. I mean, even if we were to all start with the exact same sketch, like you said, someone does it in watercolor, someone does it in vector, someone does it with line art, without line art, a bit more like dainty with fine little lines and details, or bold and cute and rounded juvenile. So there's really many different flavors that we can put in so that it looks a little bit different. And then the art director will pick depending on what they're looking for at that moment.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And it's interesting because that's so different in a way than my side of it, where I am selling, so this is a good time to segue into the selling because I sell through Cardile mainly, and that's now part of 1-800 Flowers and BloomNet. And I looked it up, and there's about 10 different, they have like a chocolate company and a basket company and a whole bunch of different places that they sell our cards through. So even though it was Cardile, now it's really more 1-800 Flowers. And it functions a little bit like print on demand, but we're not like, I'm not printing a card or somebody's not ordering it from me and then it's being shipped directly to them. What it is it's an upsell. Usually the card is an upsell at the end of their purchase. So they're buying
Mm.
a bouquet of flowers to send to somebody. And then the upsell at the end is my greeting card. I also sell on Etsy and on Zazzle and places like that too, which function a little bit differently than somebody like Cardile or 1-800 Flowers. But it's interesting because it's different than art licensing. From your perspective, what's the difference, do you think, between selling individual cards and building a licensing career? I do have an opinion on this, but I want to hear yours.
Yes, and I mean, we're the two ideal people to be talking about this because we both do
Right.
greeting cards, but we've taken such different paths. And when I hear you talk about Cardile, I'm like, oh, well, I want to try that. That sounds cool. Especially seeing how much success you've had with it. With licensing, it is completely different. We're not selling direct to customer, so we're dealing with the company and what they think is going to work. Sometimes that's not quite the same thing as what the customer wants. Sometimes the company is trying to make a trend happen. That happens. Or, the company is very trend forward. They really have their feelers out. They're the ones that decide, this color is going to be big this year because they're the ones that order the stuff.
Right.
When you're selling direct to customer, however, you have to sell a lot of cards to make money because you make just a few dollars, well, maybe a dollar per card, I don't know exactly, but you make a small amount per product. So you have to sell a large volume in order to make a good income. When doing a licensing deal, you're just giving them the copyrights to your artwork and you're like, good luck. And sometimes there are some royalty deals, so you get a percentage, and then the better they do at selling, the better you do. But
Right.
sometimes they just give you money and they go.
Right.
And then no matter how well they do, that's not your problem.
Right, right, right. And I remember that as advice or I was so excited about the deal that I got with the company that was the supplier for places like Hallmark. So I had met the owners of 3 Hallmark stores. They placed some big orders with me, but they set me up with their gift manufacturer so that they could mass produce my work. And so I know, right? And it was huge. And I've talked about it 100 times before, so everybody's heard this whole thing, but I was shocked at the difference because I would do craft sales and I would be like super excited if I made, $3,000 or $4,000 on a weekend. And when you think about that, that is huge. A lot of people at craft sales make a few $100s only. We would do these big craft sales and we'd make this, pretty good sizable amount of money. We'd pay $1,000 to be in the show, but we would make several $1,000s. But then I got my first royalty check, Vanessa, and I almost dropped to my knees because that check was for $16,000. So
Wow.
what a difference, because you're right. All I did was hand over the artwork. And then
Yeah.
they did the rest. And I remember the guy say, and I had been excited before I knew it. And he said, nothing happens until it sells. So if it doesn't sell, you're not going to be making anything at all. But if it sells, and of course they have the big network, they can make the sales everywhere, hundreds of shops, thousands of shops were selling
Hmm.
my stuff. So that is kind of different. It's very different.
Absolutely. And that's the thing with royalties. You never know exactly what's going to happen. And royalty deals can be extremely good or extremely bad. If you work with a very small company that are maybe going to sell 20, it's not worth it. It's not worth it at all.
I have a $7 check in my wallet, $7. So I got royalties from well, this is from the agent that I'm not working with anymore. And it's just we just weren't a good fit. And a $7 check. Well, like I mean, I'm not even gonna bother. I don't think I'll even put it in the bank. It's just funny. I think I'm gonna keep it.
A $7 check feels more insulting than anything. It's like, well, you shouldn't have
They
bothered.
made no effort. They made no effort whatsoever.
Yeah, and
So
16,000, that's amazing. I've never gotten a royalty check that big, but it's a definite possibility, especially when you start working with these big retailers, Target,
yeah,
etc. Uh, your art is going to be everywhere in every Target, and then the sales, they really add up. And so sometimes when the distribution is larger, when it's really mass market, sometimes you have a smaller royalty percentage. Like maybe it's 2%, whereas the standard
yeah,
is kind of 5%.
yeah.
But 2% out of a product that is in Walmart, take it.
Well, right. When you think
Because,
about it,
oh
16,
yeah.
if it was $16,000 was my payment and I was getting 5%, I mean, do the math. It sold a lot. Like it sold well.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the whole point. And, it was a continual deal. It was a deal that went on for 5 years. It was a 5-year contract. And it was like I was their house artist, which was really fantastic. So that's the way I hadn't even heard of art licensing before that, Vanessa. So, that's one of the things that I find so interesting is that you can go through art school and never even hear about art licensing. So that's one of the
Oh
reasons
yeah.
we're putting this information out there is because we want people to know all of the different ways that they can make money with their art. And for someone listening who's on the fence, what would you suggest as the one small step that they could take this week to move closer to actually selling a card design?
Absolutely. Well, it's so true that we can go through, years without knowing that's a thing. It's the same thing that happened to me. I was in art school and I studied animation, that I was an animator in a studio. Then I quit that. I was a picture book illustrator. I did all sorts of things. And it's years and years into my career that I found out about art licensing, and my brain just about exploded. I was like,
Right?
what is this? I love this. I want to do this. It's amazing. But it's not necessarily something that we know about from the get-go. It's not like a common knowledge sort of thing.
Hmm.
And so when we want to get started, we're also not sure where to get started. Sites like Cardile or even freelancing platforms like Upwork and things like that, those are things that we have more visibility on. We know, oh, I could do this, I could do that. But when you want to get your art into Target, where do you even start with that?
Yeah.
And we there's no set path. You really have to email someone. You have to find their contact information. You have to contact them. You basically have to create your own opportunity, and that can be very scary. But the very first step is finding a company that you want to contact. You don't have to start with Target. Sometimes smaller companies can be easier to find their contact information. Something that I love to do is just, go in a store, look at all the cute products. I take photos of the tags, of the barcodes. It has the information on what company that is, sometimes even the address. You can use this information to do a little bit of Googling and find out more about the company. So once you have a company that you want to reach out to, that's your first step.
You know what? That sounds fantastic. And for me, I didn't know about this. And this is the kind of thing that I'm going to learn from you. So I'm excited about your courses because I had the opposite experience where somebody came to me. Once that was over, I was lost and I really, took a little bit of time to find somebody to represent me. And I ended up not doing the kind of work that I really want and love to do. And I think I've changed over time as to what I enjoy doing the most. So I've got lots to learn, but I can't wait. So I'm so thankful you were here today. This has been so much fun, Ness, and I'm glad we're doing another episode too, because art licensing, I think, is something that a lot of people have a lot of questions about. I love how you and I, both of our perspectives overlap. It really shows that there are multiple ways to get your work out into the world, right? If you're
Mm-hmm.
listening and you want to go deeper on the business side, Vanessa's Art Business Bootcamp reopens September the 1st, right? September 1st. And
Yes.
I think you should definitely check that out. I definitely will be. So I think this is something fun that we could all do together. And if you're itching to dive into card design right now, just remember the 5 cards in 5 days challenge is happening starting September the 22nd. I have the link to the waitlist in the show notes, and I'll put your stuff in the show notes too, Vanessa, so people can connect right from the show. And it's free for the card challenge, but you can upgrade to the VIP Creators Pack, which I've been working so hard on. There's so many goodies in there. Oh my gosh. I will
I
be,
can't wait. I'm so
yeah,
happy
I'm
that you
going to be
invited
doing,
me.
oh yeah, I'm so glad you're going to be there. I'm going to be doing a bunch of extra lessons and resources are going to be like tons of resources in it. And I've been having really a lot of fun making it. Plus, I've been working on a card line that I'm going to be, kind of doing in class in during that week. And I'm going to have, of course, Vanessa here as a guest that week for just talking about this stuff a little bit further. You could ask her questions, so you definitely want to show up for that. Ness, thanks again for being here. I can't wait to do this again.
Thank you for having me, and I'm going to be designing cards with y'all in September. I can't wait, and I'm so glad that now you invited me to also speak. I was gonna show up anyway as an attendee, but now I'm gonna come in with the licensing tips at the end of the challenge, and that's gonna be really fun.
Oh, I love that because I really want to focus more on that. My previous card challenges have focused so much on POD, and this is just that other way that you can make money. So I think it'll be fun for everyone to learn more, and I can't think of anybody better to teach that. So keep juggling, everybody, keep creating, and most importantly, keep finding joy in the process.